Welcome to DAIKAIJU Network Podcast, where we have a very healthy obsession with kaiju. I am your co-host, Kent, and with me is your other co-host.
Sup? It's Jason. How's it going?
We are doing the commentary on the brand spanking new Godzilla vs. Kong today, and we figured, hey, it's on HBO Max for 31 days. Why not take a little bit of that time and actually do a commentary? So for anybody who is going to be listening to this in the future and doing it on home video, I don't know, maybe the timing might be a tad off, depending upon how they load those discs and start up the film on those. I don't think it's going to be too different from what we're getting here on the streaming service. But hey, we just thought it's right here, brand new movie. Why not do it? So for me personally, this is going to be my 8th time seeing the film.
God.
And I'm taking advantage of it. I got 31 days, and then this thing's going to disappear for like 2 months, roughly, until we get it on home video. The more I watch it, the more I enjoy it. And like we said a couple weeks ago when we discussed the film, it is a fairly flawed film, but damn, it's entertaining. And the more I watch it, again, the more I love it. It's just a fun film. It is the definition of a summer blockbuster popcorn film. So, yeah, Jason, how many times is this going to be for you?
This would actually be my 4th, because this is the first time watching it since our initial review of it a couple weeks ago. I just been so busy with work and other things, so I just really haven't had the time to take advantage to watch it on HBO Max and stuff. So apparently this will be my 4th time, and hopefully try to see it maybe a couple more times before it's gone by the end of the month. So, but with that, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below, as well as the like button if you're on YouTube, and you can watch us anywhere video format wise on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Periscope, and as well as DLive. And you can listen to our audio version of the podcast over at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn as well. And we're trying to be as accessible on any of the platforms, so you can listen to us on your desktop, laptop, or on the go on your mobile device.
Okay, and so with that, we're going to get started here on the commentary. For those of you who have not joined us for one of these before, we're going to go 3, 2, 1, go. When I say go, that's when we hit the on the play for future people on your device for your home video, or if you're streaming, the select button. So are you ready, Jason?
Let me get to the button. There we go.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Well, you just let me hit the button. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. Hopefully neither. Oh, it's buffering. Who knows how long this is going to take? Maybe you're going to be a few seconds ahead of me.
It's at the still buffering. Okay, there it goes.
Okay, now mine's, yep. Hopefully we don't have buffering issues at all. Neither one of us. I had a little bit. I never had an issue with the buffering while watching this until a couple days ago. It wasn't terrible, but it just kind of like froze like 3 seconds or something like that.
Yeah. So let me hit the commentary cam here. There we go. But yeah, hopefully I don't have any buffering issues too, because I was having a little bit of a problem even with loading some of the YouTube videos the other day. And thankfully, the internet issues that I had a couple weeks ago, hopefully that doesn't crop up too.
Hopefully, the people that live above you aren't jerks either.
Well, recently they've started being a-holes, so.
Haven't they always been? It seems like just
Well,
about every
they've
time we podcast.
well they've gotten worse since they've gotten a kid. So.
They got a kid.
Yep.
Would they buy it?
No.
You weren't specific. I like this particular design of Kong. I find it so funny that initially when the initial photos of Kong were released, a lot of people were making hay on his beard, and I'm going, let's just wait till we watch it. And I watch it, and I go, this is probably my favorite design of this character.
Yeah, with it sort of having that classic appearance of Khan, but also modifying it a little bit more, where he's more mature-ish compared to his younger self from Skull Island.
The body structure of this Kong reminds me of those World's Strongest Men competitors.
Oh yeah.
Because he, like, some of those guys, have a little bit of like a gut, but they're not like fat. But if you look at certain angles of this Kong, he kind of has a little bit of that on him too. But he's got the mass on him as well. I mean, this Kong is buff. I'd kill for a body like that, actually. Instead, I'm this tub of I can't believe it's not Kent.
Like I was seeing, like you were showing some of those uh, memory photos on your Facebook, and it was like, boy, I can't believe how skinny your neck looked back then.
Yeah, you shit. Thanks for calling me fat. I'm already self-conscious. You jerk. I blame my kids.
Well, you call me fat, but
By the way, one of the things I would have loved to have had, even if it was a quick, flashback. Flashback. My voice is cracking here. I would love to have had some visuals, if not even some more storytelling on the capturing a Kong, building this containment center, and what have you, because this is supposed to be taking place. I think it's what, 3 years after? Yeah, I think 3
yeah.
years after the events of King of the Monsters. How in the heck could they put that containment center, something that big, together in 3 years? Like, I would have loved to have seen. I would have loved to have seen just some of that backstory.
I was thinking of that myself. Was that how were they able to get Khan? How are they
Right.
able to capture Khan and put him in this containment area, like you mentioned, and especially how this huge storm that's engulfing Skull Island, how that happened. I would like to have seen a flashback story on it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, lip service, having some of that being mentioned is better than not, but it's still not wholly satisfying. I love this universe so much that I just want more.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, too, just like most of these opening credits to these MonsterVerse films, there's so many different little fun nuggets of information and Easter eggs in here. Like, you get a moment just to kind of pause or see if you can somehow slowly go through these credits. There's some interesting stuff there.
That's the one thing I would like to try to do one of these times is pause literally every second, especially when they uh, wide out some of those areas for the credit areas and see what they actually say.
Yeah, like they just show Godzilla like lifespan and some other information. Titanis Kong, 104 feet tall, 158 tons. Yeah, I couldn't quite catch everything there. Cause of death, disembowelment. Here's our March Madness bracket. Again, I still just am kind of disappointed though we didn't get even in something like a quick flashback Godzilla versus Kong that we just didn't get more, because that was one of the things so many of us were looking forward to. If we didn't get it in King of the Monsters, so many of us thought we might get it here, and we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand it probably was for budgetary reasons, but yeah.
I also like how they incorporate the Super Eye-esque type of effect with the light streams and stuff before the title reveal in the credit,
Hmm.
as well as when they are traveling to Hollow Earth. I think that was a nice touch.
Yeah. Some fans have criticized the film for saying that one of the things that they dislike about the movie is the fact that the movie says you gotta believe in conspiracy theorists and all that. And I'm going, well, no, because sure, this guy Bernie is a conspiracy theorist, but he's not one of those crazy conspiracy theorists where he's out there trying to destroy the company or burn it down. He's trying to do some investigating. There's one thing where you have conspiracy theorists who are out there trying to uh, really damage a group of people or something. And then there's other conspiracy theorists, kind of like Bernie, where you're trying to just figure things out. You got a hunch and you're trying to dig some things up. And then if there is some bad stuff, then you're going to expose them. There is a difference. And not to mention, too, this
Well,
guy's a widower. I mean, for crying out loud, you find the love of your life, you marry them, and then they die. I mean, I don't think we learn how she died, but uh, that's gonna bust you up. Like you're gonna go into some mentally weird spaces, at least for a while.
yeah. But as far as expose, trying to expose people when you're mentioning about earlier, I mean, there's going to be some people involved that you're going to try to expose, and they'll try to do anything to ruin you or possibly harm you. And sometimes you have to defend yourself and trying
I
to.
find it funny though that some of those people who complained about it, I'm friends with some of them on Facebook. Some of the same people I've noticed over the years have talked about their own conspiracy theories. So we all have our own conspiracy theories.
And plus, people have their own opinions to certain things. And I think a lot of things too that sort of have to at least respect on what they're trying to get at, but also, I mean, you got your own opinions of other things, but besides the point.
Philosophy, DAIKAIJU Network.
Yep.
Now, this is one thing I am disappointed we didn't touch upon, because we touched upon so many things in the discussion. And this led to a theory that maybe the Godzilla that we see throughout this film was actually Mechagodzilla in disguise. What do you make of, or what are your thoughts on Godzilla's eyes actually glowing in this film?
I just think from what we've seen in King of the Monsters, that after the whole uh, reviving him part and him consuming all that nuclear energy from that aftermath, I think it sort of overpowered him more. That some of that radiation is, you can kind of say it's overflowing a bit. So I think that's sort of part of that whole aftermath from the previous film.
But I thought, by and large, that all of that energy left when he turned into Burning Godzilla and used the nuclear pulse.
But I think there's still some remnants of it. Because, I mean, and I think that they mentioned this too in the 2014 film, that these Titans live off of a lot of the radiation and stuff. I think particularly more on Godzilla, because
Yeah,
with there not being as much radiation today as it was maybe possibly millions and millions of years ago. I mean, where is he going to get some of the uh, radiation today?
I will say this. I think his eyes glowing are gorgeous to look at. I like looking into your eyes, Godzilla. But I don't necessarily like it when they glow almost all the time. I think if he's going to shoot his fire, then yeah, I think maybe that works. But I think them glowing almost all the time is a little much, considering by and large, like it didn't occur in the previous films.
But
Again,
yeah,
I still wish we had spent more time with this character, uh, Godzilla. I mean, it, they could have done more with Godzilla here. I just
but
wanted to see more of Mike Keaton.
but going back on that whole theory of Mechagodzilla being disguised as Godzilla here, and I know we've did some discussion of it in the past, that it just seemed to me, it feels ridiculous that why would Apex take the time to make some kind of flesh-like covering for Mechagodzilla, and also making these designs of his dorsal plates and every single detail down the nitty-gritty portions of Godzilla's look and appearance, just to like maybe in the end either have it burn off, or Godzilla or Khan uh, revealing it, the exoskeleton version of Mechagodzilla. It, to me, it just feels it would just be too much.
Well, I have a theory on that. Oh, I wish what I should have done is saved that picture where someone they were making fun of the people who said they thought, the Godzilla was Mechagodzilla.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they did is they photoshopped the Godzilla and did some tweaks, and they said, this is what your Godzilla would have looked like. And like Godzilla was incredibly skinny, like the Mechagodzilla in the film, and it had like the four fingers like in a rectangle shape. Like it was
Yeah.
ridiculous looking. But my theory on what you were saying was that I thought, okay, if these people are correct in saying that the Godzilla we see throughout most of this film is indeed Mechagodzilla, the reason why I think Apex would do that is because they hate Godzilla for whatever reason. Like maybe the person has a personal deal against him or whatever. And so what they wanted to do is make a Mechagodzilla, put, a fleshy outer covering on it, and more or less frame Godzilla. And then destroy stuff and create havoc and all that, and then come to the forefront, maybe get a bunch of money and loyalty from world governments and people, and then say, hey, like, we got kind of this weapon, and then reveal Mecha Godzilla as is. And then when the real Godzilla showed up, everybody's hating on it, and then they send out the mecha, and then they get all the world's armies or whatever going up against Godzilla at the same time that they're sending out Mechagodzilla. Like, I thought it was about kind of like what the aliens did in the 74 film, framing Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I thought the whole story thing would have been if that turned out to be true, which it didn't.
I mean, if they whenever they decide to expand on the MonsterVerse and start to introduce some of the aliens, maybe some of the famous aliens from the Godzilla franchise, like the Exilians or people from Planet X or whoever, um, yeah, that could at least be possible to do something like that, but sort of in this time frame, not even introducing some of the outside, like kind of the out of this world stuff, even though that they sort of hinted or allude that part with King Ghidorah in the last film, but they still want to at least ground things first before they possibly go into that direction whenever they decide to expand on the MonsterVerse.
By the way, and I just happened to notice this when I watched this again yesterday. When we first are introduced to Mechagodzilla and it roars, don't you think its roar is similar to that of Ghidorah's from the previous film?
Just a tad bit.
Because I'm like, you know what? Because I haven't seen King of the Monsters in a while. It's been like a year, I think, since I've seen that one. And I kind of thought, I think that sounds very close. And if that is true, then that's a kind of a neat little clue or hint to the audience if you're fairly familiar enough with, the last film that, hey, King Ghidorah is an. Well, no, now I just am blowing holes in my theory because that's before the mech goes rogue.
I would.
Never mind.
I was thinking more along the lines of the after part when he's hijacked.
Now, am I to understand too?
Put in that power source from Hollow Earth into the Mechagodzilla, because then you can hear just a little bit of King Ghidorah after that part.
Yeah, because I just realized, like, okay, the initial, that's not when it goes rogue. But, okay, now, one thing I've been trying to figure out is, after they get that power source and then they're starting Mechagodzilla up again, were its eyes supposed to go blue as a result of that power source? Because you see it kind of flickering between blue and red, and then it goes red, and I thought, okay, is that supposed to mean something? Is it supposed to mean that with that power source, they were supposed to go blue, but because the power source is allowing the DNA of Ghidorah to get in there, that the red means no, that spirit or DNA or whatever you want to call it took over?
I don't know.
We'll get there. I think we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves here in the discussion.
It's just time out.
We're getting ahead of ourselves here.
We're
talking about things that are happening like nearly an hour and a half into the film.
And here we are back at the Skull Island containment.
I do like this little girl, Gia. She's a cute little girl.
Apparently, she's making an appearance at one of the, I think,
Pensacon.
Yeah, Pensacon thing. I think next month or June.
She's going to visit the ruins of the Apex facility there. And I'm not joking when I say this, because I've seen this movie. This is going on my 8th time now. This movie is inspiring me to maybe want to learn sign language. Like, I'm like, you know what? That actually is kind of cool. Like,
Yeah, and here's me trying to teach myself to do Japanese over the years, and
I'm
every
trying to
time,
do that too,
like
but
every there
I've
there'll
got
be
these guys.
there's a certain point to where I just stop, and there's just a big gap in between where I just have to start all over again.
When my wife got me Rosetta Stone for Christmas back in 2016, and I upgraded my computer to run it. I initially there for the first, I don't know, 2 or so weeks after that was working on it, and then sadly I got away from it because I was doing some volunteer work for a little while at that time, and then of course, my son was young. We had our daughter who was on the way, and just the volunteer work and then raising 2 young kids got and is still getting in the way of, and not to mention too, there's so many other things. Like I got all these books that I want to read too. So I've been doing dabbling in some reading occasionally. I've got all these movies and shows I'm trying to work on too, in terms of watching. And I got a ton of video games I want to play through as well.
Mm. Yeah, I was trying to teach myself through the Duolingo uh, mobile app on Japanese and stuff. And I was doing pretty good, but yeah, just
I've
haven't
got
done
the
it for the
Rosetta
last couple of
Stone.
years.
And then before I got that for Christmas earlier that year, like 3 or 4 months before that, I got this really nice set from my local bookstore. It's it's a box that's maybe like that thick, and it's got audio CDs and workbooks in it to where they're not only teaching you how to speak it, but showing you to also how to read it as well. And I just was like, my Rosetta Stone and this other set are complementing each other. Like the Rosetta Stone is teaching me how to speak it. This other one, by and large, is teaching me, yeah, kind of how to speak it, but also how to read it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got sedatives to kind of keep them calm
By
and
the
not
way,
as
we're
aggressive.
we're out in the ocean here on the way to Antarctica.
This movie moves at a brisk pace, and I think we had said a couple weeks ago when we discussed the film that this is the shortest out of the MonsterVerse.
Yeah, just 7 minutes under 2 hours. And that obviously includes the credits. So probably have to minus at least maybe 7 to 10 minutes more of credits, or five. So basically, it's under an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah. That's the thing we keep forgetting is that, when they say a movie is this long, they include the credits.
Mm-hmm. She's quite the hottie.
I was wondering to myself all week, I'm like, how long is it going to take Jace to bring that up? And it's like, no time at all. I didn't even get a chance to start the stopwatch. The visual effects in this film are absolutely gorgeous.
I have to say, by far, it's visual effects wise, it's probably one of the best that we've seen.
This whole MonsterVerse series, though, is good because, I had brought up that I watched the 2014 Godzilla shortly after watching this earlier last week. And I'm still impressed as to, at least from a visual effects standpoint, how well that film holds up nearly 7 years later. I mean, heck, that movie is going to turn 7 years old. Was it May 12th or 15th of next month?
May 16th, according to my
Or
poster here.
16th?
according to my theatrical poster that I have above my couch.
The actress playing oh shoot, the Simmons daughter here. She's a real good actress. She pulls off being a bitch quite well.
Well, what I thought just by watching the trailer and stuff, I thought that she was gonna be like the good one of the normal characters, but then when actually seeing the movie itself, it was completely the opposite.
No, I knew when I saw her in the trailers, sunglasses, black clothing, that 99 times out of 100 signals villainy.
Oh, really? Let's see, I should probably.
The score for this film is magnificent as well. I own the soundtrack. I haven't had time to listen to it, but of course, again, I'm going to brag about how many times I've seen this film. But having seen this film a number of times, and also paying attention to a lot of the musical cues when they come up, it's a gorgeous score. I don't understand some of the complaints people have about this. It is really good. And it's the expression here Kong gets when he has a roar about his chains here come up in like 2 seconds is really heartwarming or heartbreaking right there. Like the cries that they have for Kong in this film are magnificent. Like they really just illustrate his size and the different emotions he expresses throughout the course of the film. I really enjoy that too.
So you got the CD
The
to the
CD,
soundtrack?
yeah.
Huh. I thought that wasn't gonna come till next
I
month,
didn't
from what
think
it
so
sounded like.
either, but then yeah, they finally did it.
But yeah, that gal's name is Isa Gonzalez.
Yeah, I knew the actress' first name was Isa. I just couldn't remember the character's name. Something Simmons, because I know Walter Simmons.
Maya Simmons, Maia.
I like the little detail if you noticed it, like his eyes were kind of going back and forth between the two.
Hmm.
It's sign language for home. I got my son here, by the way, for people who didn't know that earlier. He wants to go home.
Yeah, if you saw the subtitle there. But I think that this is the first time, like, I believe in all 8 films of the Kong franchise, that he has done something like that with sign language.
Sign language, yeah. You kind of got a form of communication between Kong and Naomi Watts' Anne Darrow um, in that 2005 film, but nothing like sign language or anything of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking the law, breaking the law, breaking the law, breaking the law. I kind of chuckled the first time I heard that. I'm like, of course. It seems like Madison, uh, and probably it's obviously due to the fact that her mother's dead, and that probably has traumatized her to some extent, and the fact too that her dad is Doesn't seem like he's never around anymore, but she comes off as very just angry and prone to just anything to buying into just about anything in terms of theories and conspiracies.
But with, but yeah, you don't really see uh, Kyle Chandler mainly in this entire movie. You only just
That is
see a few
weird.
times.
Like,
Yeah,
was he
and
working on a different film at the same time?
let me see here. Bring this
Because
up.
I just thought that was weird. And I kind of had the feeling through the trailers, anyways, that yeah, he wasn't going to have a big part, anyways. But going through the film, I became even more shocked that he's barely in this thing. And I really am disappointed by that. Like, I really would have liked to have seen more of the Brodies. And I know a lot of people didn't, but I did. Okay, I'm the exception. And but then since they didn't go that route, they had the Russells here, and I thought, okay, well that would let's have some sort of continue, and we do with Madison here, but it just would have been nice to get deeper into the character stuff. And I know that's not what a lot of people wanted. People wanted the monsters fighting and all that, and I get that too. But I don't, it's kind of like I want some, I want some more depth. I want more.
I think apparently it's showing that there's one movie in between 2019 and 2021, which both of those were obviously the Godzilla films here, and it's called Midnight Sky. So I probably would have to assume that he was working in that movie while they were in principal production or principal photography with this film.
I got the novelization to this movie, um, and I know already the first 30 to 40 some odd pages, because I briefly skimmed it. This novelization already is going to go into depth on certain things that the movie either barely touched upon or didn't touch upon at all. It's going to go into a little bit on Mothra. It's also going to go into a little bit more on like some of the history of the expeditions about Hollow Earth and other Titan stuff. I'm really looking forward to at some point getting to that book, because I'm also hoping that as I read through it, maybe more of Mark Russell's character is involved, because a lot of times with these novelizations, what happens is the author gets access to the script for a certain amount of time, and they're allowed, I think they're allowed to either, I don't think they're allowed to take notes. I forget the process, because I read I think it was Peter David or somebody talked about the process of writing a novelization. I think maybe you can take notes on the script, but you can't keep it, obviously. And so they
Mm-hmm.
go in there and they take notes or whatever, as many as they can. And then after so many days or a week or two, they have to give the script back. And then from there, they got to write the novelization. And so obviously, when they get access to these scripts, it's still very early. They're either just starting production or they're very early in the production process. So anybody who knows anything about filmmaking knows that either through editing after the film has been shot or through the process of filming, things are added or eliminated altogether.
And it's
So I'm curious to see other material in the book is different from the actual film.
well, it's funny that you mentioned about the book sort of goes into depth about Mothra. That there's some rumors as far as a, even though that Adam Wingard said that there's
I like this, by the
post
way.
the post credit scene that was just inserted within the film, but apparently there's a rumor going on that they're was a possible other post-credit scene where they had a scene with Mothra, like turning into the Ween version of Mothra, and then possibly having like these twins and stuff at the end. That's from what I've heard. So it sort
I've
of
heard that too.
coincides.
Um, I'm not gonna believe anything until either Wingard or someone else from the production says something,
Hmm.
or if it's on like the Blu-ray or something like that.
Yeah.
Because like that one video you were showing me about the one guy who was talking about that maybe they were building up to Space Godzilla, and I kind of thought to myself, I'm like, I don't think they were, but there were. I'm like, okay, if that is true, yeah, that would be cool,
Hmm.
but I don't believe it. Again, I'm not gonna believe anything until people who were involved with this actually come out and say something. Because otherwise, it's just someone's theory. Like there were so many people who thought, like we talked about earlier, that the Godzilla we see throughout most of this film was Mechagodzilla in disguise, and that was not true. So,
Hmm. And I know that there were many theories before seeing any actual footage of the movie here, like months and months beforehand, that a lot of people have theorized of there possibly being a destroyer in this movie.
yeah, I heard that too. I even heard some folks wondering if it was Biolane.
And I know that a lot of people have been trying to, uh, if MonsterVerse continues and stuff, that there could be some other theories of how Destroyer would come about, and like with some of those little critters and stuff that you saw in Hollow Earth, that they could, like in theory, like somehow find a way to crawl up the Hollow Earth and then try to go in the, like come from that area where it was struck by the oxygen destroyer from the previous film, and then mutate through that way or some other way too. To me, if they do extend, I would say Destroyer could be the more logical villain in the next Godzilla film if they decide to renew the contract with Toho, just to
Yeah.
try to bring that element about. But yeah, I know there's other theories too, with there possibly being Bylon and obviously Space Godzilla. But then how is Space Godzilla going to come about in the next version when G cells or whatever that they decide to call his cells in this universe? Like, how are they going to go up to space,
Yeah.
or how they like? Is there going to be aliens involved?
I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
Yeah.
By the
Are they
way,
going to
just
be
a quick
involved in
thing.
harvesting
We're like
his
36
cells?
minutes in and we're
But
getting to their
let
first
me
confrontation.
finish.
I know. I just
Let me
want to
finish.
quickly say that while we're here.
Yeah. Like, are they going to come down and somehow try to harvest Godzilla's cells, or would they find it somewhere? I don't know.
You're talking about harvesting Godzilla cells. That almost sounds Orga-ish to me, if you remember that movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was a neat little touch to have, half of that ship's, um, anchor attached to Godzilla's tail, and that's sort of a nice little visual telling of not only where Godzilla is, but sort of how close he is to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
The MonsterVerse Godzilla is definitely my favorite Godzilla design. Kaboom!
Yeah, I really do like it. And then along with the '84 version of Godzilla. I really like that design too.
There are a lot of Godzilla designs I like. There aren't too many that I dislike. I vehemently dislike the Shin Godzilla one.
I
It's more
figured
about
that.
how long the tail was and how the lower jaw splits. That just no. Uh, the Son of Godzilla one, it's not my favorite, but because I've watched the movie enough times over the years, it's slowly grown on me. But interesting juxtaposition there. Did you happen to notice there too, like when Godzilla bit Kong's hand, there was like just a little bit of blood that was shown?
Yeah, yeah, I did see that.
I like too how they actually drew the sedative capsules on Kong's collar there too. Because some little details like that tend to kind of get lost in a lot of filmmaking. Now, didn't you hear something from some people saying that this whole sequence was like 18 minutes long?
No, I've not heard of
I
something like
heard
that.
that, and I'm going, this whole sequence is not 18 minutes. And so I don't know if they were referring to the actual movie, the final cut, or if it was the whole um, filming sequence before the film was edited together.
Yeah, we should one of these times do some sort of timer and check to see how long this actual sequence is.
I had to just take a guess. I'm thinking this whole sequence is between 8 to 10 minutes. I like this shot. I just really like it. Just the details and just kind of giving you the human viewpoint a little bit. Smack. Godzilla's like, oh yeah, boom. And then Kong actually falls. Godzilla's like, yeah.
But
By the way, I noticed.
I would say not only from a human perspective, but also from the kaiju perspective too, like
Yeah.
getting on their level. But what are you saying?
I realized you can make a drinking game out of this film. Here's the
How
drinking
so?
game. Here's the drinking game. Take a drink every time Godzilla makes an attempt to use his ray, but he's prevented from using it. Like right here, we had the jets come in and get him before he was able to use it on Kong. Then we see it many other times later in the film where either Kong like hits him in the face right before he uses it or whatever. We see it like a handful of times too when he's fighting Mechagodzilla.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to use fire, and then Mechagodzilla like beams him or hits him or whatever. It happens so many times in this film. I
You're gonna
actually
get
find that a bit annoying.
you're gonna get really wasted towards the end there.
Swasted.
Yeah,
Aren't you? Are you already swasted?
I'm just drinking Lacroix here.
I'm finishing up some coffee in my Godzilla coffee mug. There's another complaint I have about this film as well, and that is in every single fight Kong has in this film, he does not win any of them on his own accord. He's always getting help, mainly from the humans in some way, like here, or as in the case with the final battle with Mechagodzilla. If Godzilla had not blown his beam on that axe, Kong wouldn't have been able to take apart Mechagodzilla. I am sort of disappointed by that because one of the things about Kong is that he's just a bad mamma jamma, and he
Well,
doesn't really win a fight. Well, okay, I take that back. I just thought of one. The first war bat he kills. There's that. But otherwise, everything else, he's getting some sort of assistance on.
well, I would have to say the same thing when it comes to uh, the battle between Godzilla and Mechagodzilla,
Oh,
where
yeah.
they basically
Godzilla was dead,
made
basically.
Godzilla, you know, weaker compared to Mechagodzilla. Even though
And we
with
talked,
Mechagodzilla being a robot and everything, you still think with some of the strength and power and stamina that at least Godzilla has, you would think that they would be sort of on equal footing in that regard, but they sort of made Mechagodzilla OP against Godzilla.
I like this shot. I like the facial looks of Godzilla's just kind of like, oh, fine, I'll get you next time. Did you notice in that final battle, Godzilla actually laughs when he hits Kong at one point? We'll get there. I need to quit getting so far ahead here, but
Yeah, dude. Quit it.
I mean, yeah, and we talked about this when we discussed the film here a couple weeks ago. That was one of my issues. It's not nothing that hurts my enjoyment of it. Well, it dampers it, but it doesn't decrease it enough to the point to where like I dislike it or anything. But I did complain about how I just thought, sure, I'm okay with an overpowered Mechagodzilla. I'm okay with that because you need a big bad villain. But there's moments in cinema history where you have too much either of an overpowered villain or you just don't give your hero enough of an opportunity to fight back. I told you it
And
reminded me of the Optimus Megatron battle in that first Transformers movie where Megatron just owned that thing. The only thing Godzilla gets off in this battle against Mechagodzilla is an initial shove, like he shoves Mechagodzilla off, and then when he and Kong team up to ram Mechagodzilla through that skyscraper.
yeah, and that was sort of my initial criticism was that to me they made Mechagodzilla in this film a little too OP'd to where Godzilla didn't really have much of a chance
I
against
don't have the
him.
problem with the overpoweredness, but you could write it where your hero gets in several more hits. Because I saw when you watch the final battle, you look at it and you realize there were a few openings where, if they chose to do so, the filmmakers could have had Godzilla throw in a few more shots. They just chose not to.
Yeah, and hence that was sort of my criticism on it
Yeah.
is that they could have done more with it and at least give Godzilla a chance to put in some punches against Mechagodzilla.
I found it kind of weird though too that with the beatings these monsters get from each other in this film, that there wasn't actually more just blood being. I'm not talking about a bloodbath, but like just a little bit more blood being shown. My gosh, Rocky
It,
4 shows more blood than this movie does, and that's a PG film.
well, and then with what we're seeing here right now, it sort of kind of came to my mind, and I think I know it's going to go a little bit too far. But with Apex Cybernetics, that they have this tube transportation from whatever
Yeah.
this location is here in Pensacola all the way to Hong Kong.
Yep.
I would like to know how many years it took to do that entire
Yep.
tubing system and how much money it took to do that.
I'm curious though too. One of two things: either how did they hide it from world governments, or if they New World governments were going to notice, what do they do to either pay them off or sort of just kind of keep it on the down low? But yeah, I've thought about that too. This is one of those things you just got to accept it.
Yeah.
You just got to. But
Yeah. But also, I think it would have at least been nice that if they had something at least having Monarch involved with it with this movie. Even though that
yeah,
you sort of had it with Kyle Chandler, but yet that it's just Monarch is just barely involved in this entire film.
and I think we talked about this too the
We
last
did,
time,
yeah.
in that, you know, is it possible Monarch got neutered? Because at the beginning of that last film, you have Sarazawa, and I forget the other gal's character's name. They're in front of Congress, or at least members of Congress, talking about Monarch and sort of, is what they're doing worth some of the funding and what have you. And I almost wonder, did they get funding cut because of the events of what happened in King of the Monsters, or what? We just simply don't know. We don't even get lip service paid to that.
Which I think in the end, I would say that novelization book that you have, it could at least be a key if they have any
I hope.
mentions of Monarch. But I'm guessing that the graphic novel to both Kong and Godzilla have anything to do with Monarch.
Lincoln says he wants a blue Godzilla, one that's 12 inches tall. And I told him no, he couldn't have one because it's the exact same thing that he has, just a different paint job.
What I was thinking of is like one of those translucent theater exclusive blue Godzillas, like the GFW version.
Oh, I'm curious because this is in Antarctica.
Antarctica.
Antarctica. And again, we don't know because nothing's said even. Is this built on the site of where Ghidorah came out of? Or is that elsewhere?
I'm assuming it's in a different location
I'm assuming it is too, but
because I know with the one Monarch location on Antarctica there from 3 years ago that was completely destroyed. I don't know if they would have fast tracked into doing rebuilding that entire area.
well, you saw how quickly they put the containment center together. Although this is Apex,
Well,
but
I'm assuming that well with the Kong containment area, that probably would have taken several years to do over time.
just saw my neighbor across the street. One of the kids was backing out of the driveway. Car coming, the kid wasn't paying any attention, almost backed into the car that was coming down the street. Wasn't even looking.
Guessing the oncoming car was honking, huh?
No, there was no honking, but I just happened to
Oh.
see it.
Well, then I would just say both would be at fault. Because I would say the oncoming car should have at least honked the horn.
Well, there have been times I didn't honk at people because sometimes you're just taken by surprise sometimes. But like when I was coming home from G Fest in 2014, I was on the interstate. Like I was maybe like 15 or so miles from home on the interstate here on 96. And I was in the right hand lane. The person in the left hand was wanting to turn. They turned their blinker on and they actually start swerving in. and I didn't have time to like hit my horn. Like I got driven off into the road and I had to stop and just kind of like collect myself and I had to like swear for a few moments and then I got myself back on the road.
I sort of have had that. I sort of had that happen to me recently when I was coming back from MOA. I was going on Highway 5, sort of towards St. Paul, and this was just right next to the airport. And one of the people were uh, going onto the highway from the airport area, and they were right next to me, side by side, and I saw the car like trying to get into my lane, and I honked the horn. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? I was just looking at them too.
Well, and the thing is that people like they either use their side mirrors, but again, they always say on those side mirrors, there's always those blind spots. Driving on DAIKAIJU Network.
Driving tips or driving rage moments. But yeah, we do get to see the Monarch logo on the water bottle there.
Would you drink Monarch water? I almost said Monarch Mater.
Monarch Mater. But of course, here we get the our introduction to the Hollow Earth.
One quick nitpick I have about the whole Hollow Earth moment is that I wish more would have happened during Hollow Earth. Like we could have seen Kong battle, like maybe some skull crawlers and or another creature too.
You see, here's the Subaraya-esque light stream.
Yeah. Ah! Oh. I had to laugh at my son because here in a moment when we get the quick like well when we got the black moment where everything faded out, Lincoln goes, "What happened?" Like he thought something happened to the movie.
I remember there was a time, I think it was you and I went to see, I forget what movie it was, but we were in the middle of watching it, and all of a sudden, like the
Oh,
projector just like went out, and everyone was like, "What the hell happened?"
yeah, I forget what movie that was too.
This was years ago.
I do like how Hollow Earth is portrayed. I think it's really well rendered and realized. It's really cool how they did it. Up is down and down is up.
But I didn't really think it just. I thought it'd be more or less like a globe thing that they were
Yeah,
kind of showing within that kind of those the 3D rendering maps that they were showing earlier in the film. But here they sort of make it sort of
it's split. Yeah.
like that. And
You were thinking there's land 360,
yeah,
but instead it's like uh
like
180
or like you're
and then you
between.
got a gap and then
It's like
180.
it's sort of like
You
kind
got
of
two horizons.
oh how would I put it? In between walls, I would say. It's sort of
It's
like that.
yeah, it's a gap. Here
Where
we
I
go.
thought it would
Oh,
just
I don't
be
want to say here we go, but
more or less like an enclosed globe with some sort of like element or whatever it
wall.
is in the middle to have light.
There has to be at some point because it's Hollow Earth. It's inside. It is contained
Mm-hmm.
somehow. Oh, smackaroo. Oh, I just now noticed the reason why that warbat died is his skull got impaled on that rock.
Yeah, I
I'm like,
noticed
how did
that.
he die so easy?
Yeah, I noticed that the second viewing is like it's like how did he just die instantly? Then saw
Yeah,
it
it
the
took
second
me
time. It's
8
like,
viewings.
oh, okay. So that's how it
This is
happened.
cool. Having something like that with the war bats, they suffocate their prey. That's cool. It's hard to believe basically at this point though too. We're like halfway through the film.
Yeah, just doesn't feel like it.
Kong's fights are always vicious. It's like ripping of heads and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when things die, their eyes don't always close. Electrolytes.
Yeah, these sort of critters that I was talking
These
about
little critters,
earlier
yeah.
as a possible theory of some people were talking about them being destroyer,
Uh huh.
a precursor.
Now, this is the Lord of the Rings deal, basically the rest of the way.
That and maybe 007 Skyfall with a sort of landscape.
I do wish we could have seen just a couple more battles or something like that here. Because the Skull Crawlers came from Hollow Earth as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he's at that separation
And it's,
line there.
I would say, it'd be interesting to know if that rock formation right there,
Right.
where it's kind of like this hand,
Yeah.
if that's a natural formation or if it was man made.
I have always assumed that it wasn't man made, but that it was made by Kongs. Because, that's so much like a hand. That just cannot be a natural formation.
Well, with it being rough and stuff. And when we get to that whole main layer where Khan sort of like announces himself as king, like, was that, could that have been possibly made of from Khan's, that whole entire area, or man? Who knows?
I don't think man has been in Hollow Earth. Man attempted once because we heard, about Nathan's brother, odd number of years earlier, trying to make an attempt, but then they died. My understanding is man has not successfully made an expedition into Hollow Earth until this point. Because they were talking about the inversion of gravity and how trying to handle that was the biggest problem, which is why they got these heaves.
Hmm. But I wonder if the power source within the Hollow Earth could at least be a key to something that they could have used maybe many, many years ago. If
Well,
if
yeah,
there were
it's the same
humans in the
sort of.
Hollow Earth, that there could have been something. I mean, if they plan on expanding the whole MonsterVerse, that they could maybe try to expand into that whole area. Who knows?
What I would like to see, and like I said, I think my novelization will at least touch upon it. I would like either a graphic novel or even a novel where all it is sort of a history of man discovering, or not discovering Hollow Earth, but theorizing about Hollow Earth and somehow figuring out that yes, the Earth is hollow and trying to figure out how to get there. I think that would be an interesting story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And now, my mecha.
No, my mecha.
No, it's my mecha.
No, dipshit.
I love this Mechagodzilla so much.
And I know, of course, and I know we didn't really dive into it as much, but I know, and from what I've seen, a lot of people have been trying to connect the precursor of what Apex Cybernetics was doing with the uplink
Uh-huh.
as a precursor to Pacific Rim.
Yeah, well, and I think too they've been saying Guillermo del Toro really ever since the 2014 film has always been trying to work with Legendary to get the two universes together.
Yeah, I know he's been a big proponent of trying to do that.
To be perfectly honest, I wouldn't want that. If you want to do that in maybe an anime or something, sure, go ahead, but I don't want it in a live action film. It's amazing. It just grabs the Skullcrawler, whereas Kong always had issues with him. Ah, man, like I feel bad for that Skullcrawler.
Yeah. And earlier, speaking about how they got all this money and how long it took to build the that transportation tunnel, I'd like to know how much it took to how much money it took to make Mechagodzilla.
I don't. You know what? This guy is just filthy rich, and he's got so much money to spend. He just needs some hobbies. So I go with it. I like the fact too that with the Mechagodzilla hands that they're kind of like actual graspers and not hands, because that makes more sense. It makes sense from a design standpoint and just from a combat standpoint too, because you're going to have a better grip on things if they're designed the way that they are here.
Well, and two, I think you would have more of a surface area if you're trying to do like a punch maneuver, too, like what you've seen Mechagodzilla do against Godzilla quite a bit.
Well, and two, I think there's like energy, like the ability to um, transfer energy to like the ends there and turn it into like sort of a energy ball as it's making the punch, because that's kind of what it looks like at the end too on a number of occasions when it's punching Godzilla. It's almost as if some of that energy is coming down to those appendages as it's punching him.
Mm-hmm.
Or nerds.
Well, and I was reading on an article about talking a little bit about Mechagodzilla and his capabilities and stuff. And from what they were saying that uh, with those punches that you were just talking about, that it uh, that it did more damage to Godzilla in the long run than just the that red laser beam that he did, or some of the other things that Mechagodzilla dealt on
Mm-hmm.
to Godzilla.
Tools and carve things out. I like the little detail coming up here in a few seconds where he kind of gives out this little cry, just kind of like, anybody here?
But yeah, that's just massive. I mean, just look at them compared to that entire area. I would just say it like no man would. It would take thousands of whatever years to even like stairs, columns, all the decor around there. Like it,
Must have had a battle.
like it would have had been cons in the past.
Now, what do you think that is? Do you think it's a war bat or something?
That's it seems too large and the skull is too wide for it to be a warbat.
Because I've been trying to. I'm like, it doesn't seem like it's Godzilla, because it's got like fangs, and this version of Godzilla doesn't have anything like that.
But yeah, when you compare that skull and skeletal structure compared to the warbats that you just fought, those were smaller and their heads were small and narrow
Yeah.
compared to that.
I like all the colors in this film. It's very neon. It's got a little bit of that Tron-ness to it with all
In
the
Pacific
neon
Rim,
tubing and that too. King of the Monsters sort of had something like that too, but it was more in the representation of the kaiju when they were solo.
mm-hmm.
This score is awesome. Like the music being played during this whole sequence is one of my favorites.
Look at me.
I wonder if Hong Kong actually has all that neon. Probably not, I'm assuming.
I know I've seen some night footage of Hong Kong.
You know what? I'm going to look it
I
up.
would say like in the main area, probably.
Hong Kong. Oh boy, maybe so. Let me take a look here. You know what? It may not be 100% accurate, but it is very darn close. So yeah, I'm going to say they're close enough.
Man, I can't believe we're already getting close to the Hong Kong battle here.
Well, yeah, this is one of those movies that I consider to have not just fast pacing, but a weird way of dividing up its acts. Because to me, this right here, and technically we are still kind of in the middle of the film, but we're more like 2/3 of the way in at this point. This to me does feel more like the middle, like middle
Mm-hmm.
of the movie. I like this here too. The bioluminescence and coming up under the bridge. It reminds me so much of that Golden Gate Bridge scene from the first film. It took him 26 years, but Godzilla returned to Hong Kong.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing myself when I watched this last time. It's like, it's been since '95 he was last in Hong Kong. And that was supposedly his last film.
Although there, it's, I don't think I can't, again, it's been a while since I've seen that movie. I don't know if we understood why he went to Hong Kong in that film, but it almost seemed like he was just there just to bust crap up. Here, he's actually looking for Apex or whatever sent out that signal. he's not intentionally going around trying to destroy it necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not what this Godzilla is about.
Right.
Because that's just the name of the city. I don't know if it's a charger.
I would say it'd be more or less like a
Look
charger
like
because you
other
got
axes there.
because you got other axes there, and once you complete all of them there, that they charge one another. It seems like.
I didn't realize that until now there were multiple axes.
Well, I knew that the
So
first
wait a
time.
minute. All those like dorsal spines are other axes. Is that what that's supposed to represent?
That's what it looks like to me.
Holy mackerel. I just, and again, it took me 8 views to notice that.
I basically knew it almost the very first viewing. It's like, hey, there was another X right next to that other one that you just put down.
It's kind of goofy when you think about it, but I love it so much. Just blowing down into the middle of the earth. Shin Godzilla, eat your heart out. You can't do that.
Even with your supposed high energy atomic beam, whatever you had there.
We get some sort of transformer here. Oh, I mean, robot. It's kind of funny. Kong's like, huh. It's that simple. You can just claim it. Be like, that's my property. Is that... oh, I'm not going to go there.
Well, if Khan has anything to say about it.
That'd be funny if she said that's Apex property now and you see this big foot slam on her. and they look up at Kong. Kong's like... These things are so ugly. I love them.
That sounded like an oxymoron.
Well, they got a cool cry, and they got like this rocky, jagged, like hunch back, and yeah.
Or like I would say Godzilla-esque dorsal fin look on their back.
Ancestors of Godzilla.
Because I mean, if you look at it closely, they sort of have like that dorsal fin-esque.
A little bit, yeah. Get away. So ugly and cool. Throws a rock. What are you going to do now?
You think that was gonna end it right there?
I like that shot there.
That was the wrong move right there.
I like the shot coming up here where he has his eyeball like right up to the ship, like who's in there right here. Nothing brings joy to me in a movie like a necessary death.
And I like how I just liked his expression after he crushed that. It's like he was a total Chad doing that.
Well, and you see him shake his hand too.
Yeah.
It's just like like he was crushing a beer can or something.
Yeah.
Like he just got done with the beer. I like this. He's sliding down with the axe. Highway to the danger zone.
Speaking
Gonna
of which,
take
we
you
still
right.
haven't seen that movie. Yeah, coming up.
Yeah, like that's yeah, all of those are getting changed. I didn't realize it too, because I love those Mission Impossible movies. They're making a part 7 and 8 as well. Like it's a go for, like they're already saying, yeah, there's going to be 2 more at least.
Well, I know I've seen the last two of those movies. I think
They're
that
fun.
I'd say the last two probably were much better compared to, I've only have seen the first one. I haven't seen like two or three in some of those other ones. I've only seen the first one and then the last two.
The first one is good. Second one, a lot of people hate. I don't. I think it's good. It's not the best in the series, but I still think it's good. But it seems like for a lot of people, that's the worst of the series. I thought part 3 was pretty good. Four, part 4 is where I really thought they finally kind of like figured it out. Part 4, Ghost Protocol, I thought was good. And then was it Rogue Nation? I think is next. That was good. Then was it the last one, Fallout? Good. Here we go with the
Yeah,
standing off.
now that I remember, I think I did see Ghost Protocol, and then the last three. Yeah, now I remember, because I know one of the years I went to go see. I forget which one of those that I went to see one of those with the
Take a
parents
drink.
at the theater.
This film is what it got one of the big things right that the last film, meaning the 62 film, for whatever reason didn't do, and that is a big city battle between these two.
Mm-hmm.
I still would have liked this fight between these two to have lasted longer.
Yeah.
I really do love the color palette of this film. I think the laugh is coming up. Ah, roasted monkey. The laugh's coming here. I like that. I like that so much. Maybe I should have that as my phone ringtone. This is almost like a theme park ride here.
Speaking of theme park, they're gonna make the very first permanent Godzilla themed ride over in Japan.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
knew
sure
that
what
was in the works for a while.
I'm not sure what theme park is going to be doing it, but yeah, they just recently announced it. And I think from what I heard that they're going to be using the MonsterVerse version of Godzilla in it.
That'd be great.
But from what I saw on the concept art that they show along with not only him but Ghidorah as well, it seems sort of like a hybrid between the legendary version and the Toho version of Godzilla.
That's interesting. No, you're premature there, Skarsgård. This is like an in between rounds. And I just want to emphasize once again to all you Team Kong folks out there, Kong doesn't win any battle against God in this movie. We win, you lose. I know they technically both win, bud, but Kong was as good as dead in both fights if it weren't for human intervention.
Yeah. Excuse me.
That's what I said, pal. I kind of like Godzilla here just a sec as he's kind of searching. Like he reminds me of a cat here. Like, oh, where are you? Like,
Yeah.
and Kong's just kind of hanging out. I would think that would hurt as Kong landed on Godzilla's dorsal spines there. Like, that would have to hurt, I would think.
I sort of thought about that a while back.
Take him down. Yeah. There's a dislocation. I think that's kind of funny. Just smashes into a building. Scratching him up. Mm. Cracking them ribs and all that.
And just look at the lighting
Yeah.
on both Kong and Godzilla.
This is kind of funny a little bit. Kong initially is kind of like, fine, I'll yell at you too. I've always kind of wondered, like, did Godzilla, like, honestly think, and I know he did earlier in the movie, but at this point in the movie, does he know whether or not Kong is kind of, that the thing that's sending out that signal, or does he realize there's something else out there? Because I've always thought it interesting that he never just finished Kong off. Like, I think he knew he had Kong beat for sure, but that he just didn't, for the sake of just completion, finish him off, you know?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if that was sort of the thing that they were going in that route, up leading up to the point of Mechagodzilla escaping on his own, and then what happens after that.
To me, it seemed like Godzilla maybe just isn't like this,
See, here
this
you
this
go,
bloodthirsty killer. Yeah, that the moment where it's like, okay, is that supposed to mean something?
where it changes from blue to
I keep
red there
thinking
in the
it's
eyes.
supposed to.
And it's also kind of freaky how it just starts to slowly move and
Yeah.
like turning the head and everything.
And in that dream I saw, that dream was pure and fascinating. Oh, shit. Oh, yeah, it kills him. He's not getting up from that. It's a
or
bunch of
did
electricity shooting through you.
or did it? Because we never really know.
Part 5 is him coming back and he's like partially burnt and like he's got like one
Scarred.
eye that's glossed over and we're just having fun here. But again, you can't hear what's going on here. I like Godzilla's face there. He's kind of huffing and puffing like, oh. I love this Mechagodzilla so much. It's a Mechagodzilla, Mark. Idiot. That'd be funny if his colleagues said that. Duh, don't you know?
But yeah, I really do like how they take on the whole uh, design and the combat skills for Mechagodzilla.
I do too. Well, and this should make a lot of old school fans really happy because the battles in this film are very hand to hand.
Mm-hmm. Boom. Boom. Another boom.
We are like 100% synced up here because every time you said boom, it went boom on my end.
I think that's probably the first time ever
I was
since
about
we
to say
started
that.
doing the commentary thing.
Because typically one of us is like a few seconds ahead. I would like to own a heave.
It's kind of funny how a thing that small would be able to generate an entire city of Vegas for a week.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's got to be nuclear power or something.
It's like for some reason when I think about that sequence there where he was toying with a little circular thing, it sort of reminded me of the M11 part where
Oh
they
yeah,
were uh, exchanging like those little mini
the
CD
discs.
discs
Yeah,
in his head to program him.
I kind of like that little comedic moment there. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Was that intentional or not? Is the question.
Who knows?
It's interesting how when he shoots his fire, only the center dorsal plates light up.
You know, it'd be funny when he runs out all of a sudden it just prematurely explodes.
I've thought that several times too. Well, I want to know, how did he get down from Kong so fast? Because, that Kong to the top of his chest has got to be, what, 50 feet or something like that? Like, it's high up there.
Maybe 25.
I know how to say Godzilla now in sign language.
He's like, really?
A little bummed. He just takes and slams it against a building.
Well, you gotta do it somewhere.
Well, I know, but it's just like, this looks sturdy. Whack. This Mechagodzilla boy.
He just throws Godzilla around like a rag doll.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and this is a heavy Godzilla. I mean, just for the first time in franchise history, Kong is fighting Mechagodzilla.
Yeah. Well, and sort of teaming up with Godzilla to beat him.
Well, yeah. I really do like this sequence, the two of them coming together.
Yeah, and see
Gosh,
that.
Godzilla just keeps getting the crap kicked out of him.
Well, and see like that using the energy when he like punches
Yeah.
Godzilla. That's the sort of thing that I was talking about earlier, where it probably was most
Right, me
effective
too.
against Godzilla.
Die with you here. Sober. That dysfunction, like, it didn't really actually disable Mechagodzilla. Like, it just created a quick little hitch in it. It might have been, yeah, just enough to create an opening, but maybe not that much.
Well, at least an opening to give Khan at least a break
And I know
to hold
Godzilla
back the tail.
technically helped with this, but man, it would have been nice to see Godzilla more involved here. Considering this movie is mostly about Kong.
Well, Khan gets a win
I like this
against
shot here.
Mechagodzilla.
With assistance from Godzilla. Again, everything except that first Warbat. He gets help from somebody.
Mm. Huh? What? How'd he get down there so fast?
He's the Vision. That always gets me to jump a small bit because it's just loud enough. I like the music here too. Major props. You didn't have to wear it, pal.
And I know with Adam Wingard saying that they did make a post credit, but then decided to add it within the movie, I have a feeling it was probably this part where they were back in the Hollow Earth with Khan there.
I think it's wise because we don't know what the future holds for this. Because Toho's doing their own thing now. I don't know if Toho wants to compete with this. I want to see more. I really do, but I just know in Toho.
And
All
that's
right. That is the end of Godzilla vs. Kong. All right. So, Jason, fourth time seeing it, Thoughts, opinions?
To me, I think it gets better and better, although still some of the shortcomings when it comes to the human elements, where I think it would be nice to sort of have some sort of balance in between, like what we've discussed a couple weeks ago about the shortcomings of Godzilla vs. Kong. But other than that, still very entertaining movie, very good visual effects, probably the best visual effects I've seen in a long time. And of course, the kaiju battles is by far out of both franchises the best by
Yeah, I
far.
mean, and I think I can't remember if I said this on air. I know I said it to you before we started recording that this to me just gets more entertaining with each viewing. And yeah, it's unfortunate that this is a pretty flawed film in many ways. Lip service is paid to some things. Some visual service, such as what happened to the other Titans, is paid or
Mm.
is mentioned to kind of get you up to speed on what's happened between King of the Monsters and now. Does that make some of the issues satisfying? Not necessarily, but it's understandable why they had to do something like with the Titans. You have a certain budget. There just probably wasn't the money, to go in there and animate however many Titans there were, and to have Godzilla and maybe Kong go up against all those Titans. Um, but it's still a very entertaining film. I get more and more entertained by it with each viewing. Flawed movie. I mean, in general, no movie's perfect. And I talked about how last podcast too that I've been, in a general sense, slightly disappointed with the MonsterVerse in the terms of it seemed like with Godzilla and a little bit with Skull Island that maybe we were going to go into a more sophisticated, mature storytelling approach with this series, and what it's become is sort of the typical, monster punches monster, which is fine, but we already have a bunch of those other films to revisit if we want to. And I was just hoping for something a little bit different with this franchise. It's still good, and I've realized I've been very harsh on King of the Monsters over the last almost 2 years now, and I've been a little bit more um, not forgiving's not the word, but just more, I guess, accepting of what it is. And I've always found that film to be entertaining. I just, like I said, was disappointed because it seemed like we were going to go in one direction, and I was really looking forward to that. And then we
Right.
went almost the exact opposite. And that was my biggest hang up with King of the Monsters, is that it just like we abandoned the type of storytelling and artistry that was set up with that film. But
Mm-hmm.
Godzilla versus Kong, very entertaining film. I love it. There's at this point, there's what, 13 more days while it's on the streaming service. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to watch it as many times as I can. It's gonna be hard because Mortal Kombat's coming out here in like a few days.
Yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say that's
so
probably the only thing that I'm now looking forward to with Mortal Kombat coming out next week.
yeah, so it's going to be hard to try to figure out some balance there, but um, just try to watch the heck out of this thing as many times as I can before it disappears for a few months. But hopefully, like Wonder Woman 84, we don't have to wait any longer than maybe 2 months, because it was just a hair over 2 months from the time it left HBO Max to when we got the home video release. So I'm hoping it's kind of a similar time frame. Sooner would be better, but I know that's not gonna necessarily be the case. But yeah, I really
Mm-hmm.
love the film. It's very enjoyable. It's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. With it being basically the hot ticket right now since the beginning of the pandemic, uh, with it grossing, I think it just passed the 350 million globally here, and I'm not sure how long it's going to actually take to me, I think it sort of depends on how long it's going to be in the theaters, and with it being as popular as it has been, like basically the first real blockbuster, as you mentioned in the previous episode, since the beginning of the whole situation that we've got going on right now. So to me, I think that sort of depends on how long it lasts in theaters from when it leaves until they bring it out onto physical media form.
The thing is, though, it's gotten to a point, and I've noticed this with a handful of movies every year, and it happened with Wonder Woman 84 even. When it came out on home video, it was still in some theaters.
Okay.
So we're kind of at that point where they're, and I don't know, and the pandemic, I'm sure, is probably part of it. They know people are thirsty for media, and some of these studios want to recoup some of that money. They know they're probably not going to get all their money back. And so physical media, both in well, and even digital downloads is one way to get that money. Yes, they're making money right now. A lot of that, though, is overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but, money still is money. But
Right.
um, I think, though, they're just wanting to recoup a lot of that back, and one way of doing that, especially in the current climate we find ourselves in, physical media. You get the product out there, you're gonna make some money off of people buying it. And like we've been saying, and as the figures have shown, this is a very popular film. This is a movie that I really do believe is going to go gangbusters when it's available to purchase. I mean, I'm definitely, with all my favorite films, I'm out there day one purchasing it, and this is going to be a day one purchase.
Just hoping
So
that there won't be any stupid scalpers trying to take
no, it's
advantage
not.
of it.
I'm not worried
So,
about that. No, but anyways, that's Godzilla versus Kong. That's our commentary for it. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it and had as much fun with it as we have. And so we will. As of this recording, we have a special guest next Saturday. It'll be 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are going to be interviewing Frankie B. Washington with their upcoming Kickstarter project. We're going to be interviewing him about the project and talking about that. So that's going to be our final live episode for a while, because after that we're going to go dark for a little while, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be preparing for DAIKAIJU Fest. We've already been working on that a little bit over the last month and a half or so, and really after next Saturday, really from that moment up until we get the premiere of DAIKAIJU Fest in early middle-ish July, that's the last you're going to hear from us, at least in terms of a podcast form. So just want to let everybody know, we're going to try to do the best we can to just market the heck out of DAIKAIJU Fest. We're really excited about this year because we actually have more time to think about things and to produce the show as well. We think this is going to be a fun DAIKAIJU Fest this year, so we hope you're just as excited as we are.
yeah, because I'm thinking about tomorrow starting to come up with some of the marketing stuff as far as advertising Daikaiju Fest 2.
Mhm.
Uh, and probably start doing that maybe the day after when we do our interview with Matt Blair and Frankie B. Washington
I
next
think it's
Saturday.
just Frankie joining us. I don't
Okay.
think Matt's going to be joining us.
Okay. Um, but yeah, probably start doing the advertisements for Daikaiju Fest 2. And I know I've been in the middle of watching um, Jumborg Ace, which I'm going to be doing for one of my panels, as far as sort of the overview of that entire show. I'm not sure how many episodes that I'm currently in, but I know I've been on the first disc, and I think there's 50 episodes total, and doesn't seem it seems like that they've fitted almost like all the episodes within one disc. That's what it sort of feels like, or just more than 50 episodes. That's how it feels like. But I haven't really gotten into that, I think, for the past week or so, but hopefully tomorrow and maybe later on today I should start getting back into that. And I think I might have one more left solo wise before we do our whole shebang on what we're planning on doing. So,
but yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and we're looking forward to talking to Frankie next week. We hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Alrighty. Well, I want to get off here and